Hello, and welcome to another episode of Science Punx, where we break down the science behind the headlines. Today we're tackling a stinky but serious question. Do cow farts really contribute to global warming? And more importantly, what can we do about it? First, let's set the record straight. The issue isn't just cow farts, it's also cow burps. Cows, like other ruminants, have a special stomach compartment called the rumen, which allows them to digest tough plant materials, like grass. During this process, microbes in the rumen break down the food through fermentation, producing methane as a byproduct. Methane is a greenhouse gas that's about 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide at trapping heat in the atmosphere over a 100-year period, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. Now, let's get to the numbers. Agriculture is responsible for about 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and within that, livestock contributes a significant portion. Methane from enteric fermentation, the fancy term for what happens in a cow's digestive system, accounts for roughly 40% of agriculture's emissions, and with over 1.5 billion cattle on the planet, that adds up quickly. So does this mean your cheeseburger is killing the planet? Well, not directly, but it's a contributor. The good news is that researchers and farmers are exploring ways to reduce the methane impact of cattle. One promising solution is changing what cows eat. Studies have shown that adding certain feed additives can significantly reduce methane emissions. For example, a 2021 study published in the journal PLOS ONE found that adding a small amount of the seaweed Aspergopsis taxiformis to cow feed could cut methane production by up to 80%. This works because compounds in the seaweed, like bromoform, disrupt the microbes in the rumen responsible for producing methane. Other feed additives, such as essential oils, tannins, and fats, are also being studied for their potential to reduce emissions. Another approach is improving breeding and management practices. Selective breeding programs aim to produce cattle that are more efficient at converting feed into energy, which results in less methane per unit of milk or meat produced. For example, the Netherlands has implemented breeding strategies to improve feed efficiency in dairy cows, and early results have shown promising reductions in emissions intensity. Similarly, better manure management can capture methane emissions from waste and turn it into biogas, which can be used as a renewable energy source. The United States Environmental Protection Agency has supported initiatives like the AgStar program, which helps farmers install anaerobic digesters to process manure. These systems capture methane and convert it into biogas that can be used to power homes, vehicles, or farm operations. There's also a movement to explore alternative proteins. Plant-based meat and dairy substitutes, such as those produced by Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, are gaining traction as viable options. These alternatives produce significantly fewer greenhouse gas emissions compared to traditional livestock farming. According to a 2019 study published in Science, producing plant-based protein requires significantly less land and water, while generating only a fraction of the emissions associated with meat production. For example, producing a Beyond Burger uses 99% less water, 93% less land, and generates 90% fewer greenhouse gas emissions compared to a beef burger, as reported in an independent life cycle analysis commissioned by the company. Another exciting development in this space is the rise of lab-grown, or cultivated, meat. Companies like Upside Foods and Mosa Meat are developing techniques to produce real meat without raising animals. This process involves cultivating animal cells in a controlled environment, resulting in meat that is biologically identical to conventional meat, but with a fraction of the environmental footprint. According to a 2011 study by Tuamisto and Teixeira de Matos, lab-grown meat could reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 96% compared to traditional beef production. Plant-based dairy alternatives are also making strides. Almond, soy, oat, and pea-based milk products offer consumers a variety of sustainable choices. A 2018 study published in Science found that producing a glass of dairy milk emits 3 times more greenhouse gases and uses 9 times more land than producing plant-based milk. These alternatives not only appeal to environmentally conscious consumers, but also have the potential to disrupt the global food system in ways that significantly reduce emissions. Public awareness campaigns, supported by organizations like the Good Food Institute, are helping to educate consumers about the environmental benefits of these products. But what about the role of consumers? Your choices can make a difference. Reducing meat and dairy consumption, even slightly, can lower demand for livestock and, by extension, methane emissions. It doesn't mean everyone has to go vegan, but adopting practices like meatless Mondays or choosing sustainably sourced products can help. A 2020 report by the Eat Lancet Commission suggests that a shift toward a flexitarian diet, one that emphasizes plant-based foods while still including some animal products, could significantly reduce global emissions. Governments and policymakers also have a role to play. In some countries, subsidies and incentives are being offered to farmers who adopt methane-reducing technologies. For example, New Zealand, a country heavily reliant on agriculture, has introduced programs to research low-emission feeds and vaccines for livestock. The European Union's Common Agricultural Policy has also begun integrating sustainability measures, including financial incentives for methane reduction practices. Finally, let's address a common question. Isn't methane a natural part of the carbon cycle? Yes, it is. Methane does break down in the atmosphere over about 12 years, unlike CO2, which can stick around for centuries. However, the problem is the sheer volume of methane being released, which far exceeds what natural processes can handle. This contributes to a rapid warming effect that exacerbates climate change. According to the Global Methane Assessment published by the United Nations Environment Programme in 2021, cutting methane emissions by 45% by 2030 could prevent nearly 0.3 degrees Celsius of global warming by 2040. In conclusion, while cow farts and burps might seem like a joke, they're a serious issue when it comes to global warming. The good news is that there are many solutions, from changing what cows eat to rethinking our own diets, that can help mitigate their impact. With collaboration between farmers, scientists, policymakers, and consumers, we can tackle this methane problem and take another step toward a sustainable future. Thanks for tuning in to Science Punx. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more science content that cuts through the noise. And remember, every small change counts when it comes to our planet. Until next time, stay curious.
Science Punx, we're here to say, one should see science in a brand new way. Thanks to quantum leaps, collaborate to the test. Science Punx, bring your science at its